You're good, Chloe.
Okay. Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to wait a few minutes while people get themselves organized. And in particular, we were just talking with somebody named Al from Massachusetts, and we want to make sure he gets back on. I apologize if you clicked on a link that I sent you this afternoon from my personal email at work, Loey@Green Energy Consumers, because that link was an organizer's link and shouldn't have been sent out. But I was not aware of that at the time. So we'll get started in just a few minutes. Then you can put a note in the chat box if you want to. I believe you can get to the chat box and put a note in there with your name and what state you live in. That would be great way to introduce yourself. And I'll also ask my colleague Kate to introduce herself now. She's our technical organizer on this webinar. Kate?
Yep. Hi, guys. My name is Kate Marcelino. I am the Marketing Communications and Marketing and Communications Coordinator for Green Energy Consumers. And I will be here for technical help as best as I can be. So let me know if you have any questions.
Kate, am I correct that people can put their name and the state that they live in the chat box if they want to?
Yep. It'll be under chat or questions. And you guys should be able to access that. I think for most attendees that it's under questions, not chat.
Good, well, let's get started because I know everybody's got questions that they want to ask, and I want to go quickly through my slides just to orient you all. If you are not seeing on your screen the first of my slides, Saving Energy in Oil Heated Homes, please put a note in the chat to Kate. Possibly it'll be listed as Green Energy Consumers or organizer. Please put a note in the chat and Kate will have me stop and we can get you figured out there. So welcome to the webinar. My name is Loey Hayes and I am the membership coordinator at Green Energy Consumers Alliance. Oh, and now I'm having trouble forwarding the slide. There we go. We're going to go through our introductions and then simple steps and then moving in complexity up to professional level steps. And then we'll take questions. There's an old boiler that they weren't sure was going to pass the carbon monoxide test when I was there taking pictures. So Green Energy Consumers Alliance, we help people make green energy choices. It's not an easy thing to do sometimes, but with some organizing, you can make it easier. We are a nonprofit and we were founded in 1982. So we've been around for quite a while. We started as an oil buyers co-op. We've expanded to include green electricity, electric vehicles, solar panel, and heat pumps. The heat pumps program is just a pilot project that we don't run all the time, but we are trying to organize it more and more so that we can help people learn how the heat pumps work and where they make sense and what the barriers are to adoption. We're pro-consumer, pro-environment from the beginning and will always be. And we primarily work in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So what are the big energy uses in our homes? Well, heating and air conditioning, obviously. This is about 60% of your energy, your total energy load. The latest data that we have from the Energy Information Agency, the federal agency, is that in Massachusetts, air conditioning was only 1% of our average energy use in 2009. We expect that's going to increase because our summers are getting hotter. Your fridge, your other appliances, your light, that's another quarter of your total energy pie, roughly speaking. And water heating is a full 16%. So definitely when you're thinking about how can I green my home, how can I save money, that water heater is an important thing to take into consideration. Now for oil heated homes in Massachusetts, the census data tells us that about a quarter of all homes in Massachusetts use oil heat. That's 700,000 oil heated homes. About on average, those homes are about 1,900 square feet, and it takes about 700 gallons to heat that size of a home. Now you can figure how does your home compare to that average by thinking about by looking up how many square footage you have. Are you larger or smaller than 1,900, and are you using more or less than 700 gallons? Every time you add insulation or increase the efficiency of your heating equipment, you will need less oil to keep you comfortable. So those are things that you want to strive for: more insulation and higher efficiency equipment. Now, just a few do-it-yourself things that are common sense. Replacing the air filters if you have a furnace. You want to do that on a monthly basis. Adjusting the water heater temperature. It's marked right on the dial. It's easy to do, and it really does save a considerable chunk of change when you can adjust that down. If you have ductwork that is exposed in your basement or in your attic, you can actually seal those ducts. You can seal the seams in the ductwork by yourself with mastic. It's a very simple task. You can seal basement doors and windows. That's a really important thing that a lot of people don't do, but it really cuts down on the drafts in the house if you can cut down on the drafts in the basement, because as you heat air in your home, that hot air is constantly rising, and it's pulling air from your basement around your walls, around your windows and doors as well. So you want to seal up those air leaks as much as you can. And if you'd like to put a note in the chat about do-it-yourself things that you've done, I always love hearing about that. So please help yourself to that opportunity. Another no-brainer is to get what we've always called annual tune-ups. Now, you don't actually need to do them annually at this point because the fuel that we're burning is much cleaner than it used to be. You see in this chart in 2010, Massachusetts had 3,000 parts per million of sulfur in the heating oil that we were burning. And by law, that has changed and is now just 15 parts per million. So you have less soot building up in your system. That was the most common call for service before the ultra-low sulfur law was put into place, clogged nozzles, things like that. So less gunk in your tank, less soot in your system. So you can stretch that out a little bit now to a little bit more if you're not using 800 gallons in a year. You can stretch that a little bit more, add a month or two. And you definitely want to get your energy assessment or your heating assessment. If you have any questions about why is my house not staying as warm as I want it to be, that's the first thing you want to do. These services are free through MassSave, through EnergyWise Rhode Island, and through many municipal light and power plants. This is your first step to becoming eligible for interest-free loans and other incentives. You can often get free light bulbs, power strips, thermostats, and most importantly, it provides you with independent professional advice. And now during the era of COVID, you can have a virtual home energy assessment. You can call the programs, schedule your time for a visit, and tell them that you'd like a virtual visit. And then with your smartphone or your tablet, walk around your home showing pictures of your shower head in this instance, in this photo. You'll receive a follow-up report by email. You will receive light bulbs and power strips and things like that in the mail. And you can also get these through the municipal light plants. And here are 2 URLs for people who have municipal light plants to call and see if you can get what services they offer in terms of home energy assessments. Now, the next step up is looking at your hot water system and your ductwork. If you have a standard storage tank, think about flushing that on an annual basis. Opening up the drain valve so that any calcium that's accumulated at the bottom of the tank gets flushed out. If you haven't done that in a long while, you might not want to do that because the valve can get clogged. But in my home, when I did that after many years of not doing it, all I had to do was leave a bucket. The water flowed quickly, and then I closed the valve, and there was a drip. So I just left a bucket underneath that drip, and within a few days, the drip had stopped as well. So it wasn't a great deal of water lost or energy wasted, and it did succeed in flushing out the tank. When you're doing a tank replacement, you want to get a tank that has 2 anode rods. That will definitely give you a longer life and more money for your investment. Now, if you are replacing a boiler, that's a hot water system. If you have baseboard or radiators, that's a boiler. Consider getting an indirect system when you have to do a boiler replacement. The photo, the illustration that's on the slide shows an indirect system where you can see pipes that actually connect from that green box, which is your gas burner or your oil burner, and the golden tube, which is your storage tank for your hot water. And you can see where hot water from the boiler is going in through pipes in the storage tank and giving off the heat into your domestic water system. And that indirect system is much more efficient. Some people don't like it because it means that your furnace has to come on during the summer. But research shows that because you're essentially getting free hot water for all the months of the year that your heating system is on, that more than pays for the system coming on during the summer months to heat your hot water. Now, if you heat your hot water currently with an electric tank, you definitely should consider getting a heat pump water heater when you next have to replace that. A heat pump water heater will be much more efficient and thus save you considerable amount of money. And lastly, on your ductwork for your hot air or your hot water pipes, you want to insulate those. Any of those pipes that you can see, you will save money by buying some insulation at a hardware store and putting that insulation on those pipes yourself. Now, moving into the bigger steps, I know a lot of you are coming to the workshop, the webinar tonight because you're thinking about bigger things. Whenever you're thinking about bigger things, think about insulation and air sealing as well, because there is no better way to reduce your energy costs than to add an additional blanket around your house and to stop up the air leaks that are sucking the hot air out of your house too quickly. If you're doing a heating system replacement, you definitely want to start out by checking with the energy efficiency programs to see what incentives might apply. For instance, Mass Save currently is offering for high efficiency oil heating equipment for furnaces, $650 rebate, and for boilers, $800. Remember, a furnace is a system that produces hot air that comes up through registers in your floor, and a boiler produces hot water that gets to you by baseboard or by radiators. And there are efficiency ratings for both of those. It's both 86% is the cutoff for what's considered a high efficiency oil heating equipment. Other big opportunities, if you happen to have to re-roof or re-side, those are both opportunities for adding insulation. And if you are adding insulation and air sealing, you can consider installing a heat recovery ventilation system. That's basically like a bathroom vent, but instead of it being one way, hot air being pushed out into your into the outside, it also has a system bringing cold air in, and it wraps those two ductworks around each other so that that fresh air that's being brought in is warmed by the air that's leaving. The airs don't actually meet, but or mix, but the heat from one is brought into the other, and that's a heat recovery ventilation system. For major renovations, there are two programs in both states. And that would be anything if you're considering adding an additional room or converting a basement or an attic to living space. These are great opportunities for increasing the energy efficiency of your whole building, and these programs will help you do that. I have the URLs here primarily because we'll be sending these slides to you later. You don't need to write them down. Now, some people have had trouble getting insulation, and there are some common problems. The siding sometimes of the house is difficult to insulate in the normal way. Brick siding, asphalt siding, or asbestos siding are all difficult to insulate. You can insulate those from the inside sometimes, or sometimes again, a re-siding project that would be part of a major renovations project. Another problem that has been a problem for some people is moisture penetration through the roof or the basement. If you have problems with the roof or the basement, the major renovations programs can help you. And as well, oh yes, this is the URL for the renovations and additions interest form that you would fill out to start the process. There's another common barrier to insulation, and that is potential toxics in the home. Vermiculite is a type of attic insulation that was blown in before they started using cellulose, and unfortunately, some of the vermiculite is contaminated with asbestos. And this is a picture that I assume no one has in their basement still. The white clad furnace on the left there. That's what we call the snowman in the basement, and that is asbestos insulation. You may have asbestos insulation on some of your pipes still, and there are programs that will help you encapsulate that or remove it. On the right, you see a photo of knob and tube wiring. This is an old-fashioned type of wiring that is a potential hazard for insulation in wall cavities. And so if you do have any knob and tube wiring, even if you have just the knobs and the tubes and no wires left, you do need to have an electrician sign off to make sure that there are no live circuits with knob and tube wiring in the house. And in Massachusetts, there's special funding to help subsidize the removal of these potential hazardous things. The expanded heat loan is the name of that program, or the barrier mitigation grants. Now, heating replacement, probably what brought a lot of you to the table here today. First, plan ahead as much as you can. Figure out what the efficiency is of your current heating equipment. You're going to be wanting to know the combustion efficiency rating, and it's a percentage. If it is less than 70% combustion efficiency, it is time to replace that. You will definitely be able to save money by spending money to replace it with a more efficient system. As you saw in the earlier slide, 86%, 86% AFUE. It's a slightly different measure, but they're definitely much more efficient oil heat systems than 70% at this point. You can also try to figure out when your system's expected expiration date is. You can think of a boiler, a 30-year-old boiler is definitely ready to be replaced. A furnace that's even 15 years old may be ready to be replaced. So try to get that information if you can find the model number or the tech who installed it, etc. And then get 3 quotes. There is a great vendor list on the Mass Save website. This is a picture of that. HVAC Measure Quick trained contractors. So you know that the contractors that you would find through the Mass Save website are highly trained. And there's a very similar vendor list on the EnergyWise Rhode Island site as well. We also have a maintenance guide on our website. If you have any trouble finding that, just let me know and I'll get you the URL. It's a little. Our site has so much information; it can sometimes be hard to find what you're looking for, but I can help you find it. Now, when you're thinking about high efficiency oil heat, as you saw in the earlier slide, 86% or more is what you're looking for in that AFUE rating. You want to also ask about outdoor reset controls. This basically is a thermometer that's outside your home that has a small wire that connects to the furnace. The outdoor resets are connected to furnaces. Sorry, the outdoor resets are connected to boilers. Sorry. It helps the boiler throttle down and throttle up so that it's not running at full bore in spring and fall, but running more efficiently at 50% capacity. And the same thing with the ECM fans for furnaces. Those help the furnaces throttle up and throttle down as needed, depending on the outdoor temperature. And just a note again about that indirect domestic water heating. If you're looking for a boiler, ask about getting an indirect hot water system to go with it. And electric heat pumps. A lot of people are interested in electric heat pumps. I have one myself. I have electric heat in my home, so it was a no-brainer because they're 3 times more efficient than electric baseboard heat. Electric heat pumps can draw heat either from the air or from the ground. They can also draw heat from water as well, but that's much less common. So air source or ground source. That means a ground source one you might want to look at if you live in the country, where you can get up, where you've got space on your property to pull in a bulldozer and do some digging. Air source heat pumps are much more likely to be used. The ground source is much less likely to be used in an urban area. Air source heat pumps can be used both in rural and urban areas. You can get heat pumps sized either to heat your entire home or just to do one room at a time. If you have an oil system that is working, you might, and that's working, efficiently enough for you, you might consider gradually adding converting some part of the house to heat pump heat, and then slowly reducing the amount of oil that you use. Or you could say, no, the oil system is definitely needs to be replaced. It's either a new oil system, a new gas system, or a heat pump system. a heat pump system is definitely your ecological choice, because it can be completely heated. It can be completely fueled by renewable energy. And so no carbon would be emitted in the heating of your home, which is what we're all striving for eventually. Whether it makes economic sense is the big question, because right now they're fairly cutting edge and so fairly expensive. They are the most efficient cooling. So if you already have a central air cooling system, a heat pump replacement, when it comes time to replace that central air, would be a very smart move, because you will get less costly air conditioning, and that same piece of equipment will produce heat during the winter and offset whatever your fuel is in the winter. They are very efficient in cold temperatures. Some people will tell you, oh no, they just don't work. And it is true that heat pumps were much more common in the American South, and in Europe and Asia, where the temperatures did not get as cold as the northern New England and Canada. But even in the last 10 years, there have been great advances in heat pump technology, and now they can produce heat efficiently down to very cold temperatures. So you want to make sure when you're looking at heat pumps, you want to tell them that you're interested in a cold temperature heat pump, one that's rated for producing heat in winter. And there's a great planning guide at goclean.masscec.com for looking at all the fossil fuel uses in your home and taking notes. It's a checklist. You can write down the ages of all those systems and work on your long-term budget about how I can stage, the gradual conversion of my home to clean energy sources like heat pumps. And I can talk more about heat pumps in the question and answer session. We also have more information on our website. And I did manage our latest heat pump pilot project, so I can happy to share what I know about that. If you like this webinar, there's another one tomorrow on buying a pre-owned electric car. We're very excited that the pre-owned market for electric cars has started to materialize, and we're happy to share information about that, a more affordable way to convert your transportation to clean transportation. You can always find our events at greenenergy.org events, and you can find our recorded webinars on YouTube. In fact, you'll find an earlier version of this webinar on YouTube already. We have a YouTube channel. You just need to put in Green Energy Consumers in the search field and click on our channel. And please donate to support our nonprofit mission. We are a very strong energy advocate in both states, and we are leading the charge for equitable climate policy in many instances. Our Drive Green program is unparalleled, probably nationwide, certainly in the Northeast. Education advocacy and actually organizing incentives from dealers for car purchases and car leases for that matter. And Green Municipal Aggregation, this is a very exciting program that is making green electricity affordable to entire municipalities all at once, as opposed to one household at a time deciding that it would spend more to have green electricity. So please go to greenenergyconsumers.org/give now to make a donation. And we so thank you for that. And I would be happy to take your questions. Kate, I believe you'll be, if you could unmute yourself and read the questions, because I don't think I have access to the question box.
Sure. I have one. What's the lowest hot water temperature in order to save money but still have hot water in showers?
On your dial, you'll see that hot to warm spectrum. And what I suggest, usually there's an extra large little marker, but somewhere between hot and warm. I suggest you put your dial on that setting, and then actually, do as much hot water usage as you can in a short period of time, and find out, did you have enough or did you not? And then you ratchet it up and ratchet it down depending on which direction you need to go, and just keep ratcheting down until you can do all the things that you want to do, say two people taking showers back to back, or a bathtub, or whatever it is you want to do, and see if that works for you. There's no temperature per se that will work for one house or another, because so much temperature is lost between the tank and where it actually needs to be used.
Okay. Another is, what is the most efficient temperature swing to have in your house? So between nighttime and daytime's temperature settings.
Again, it is not so much a most efficient. Um, I think it's not uncommon for people to choose, 60 at night and, 68 during the day. Um, but you might need to have your house warmer in order to feel warm. You might want to have it as 72 or whatever it is that suits you. If you can bring it down 10 degrees at night, you'll definitely be able to save money. I think, but every degree that you drop it down saves a percentage or two of your total annual bill, if you can keep that up all year. Now that doesn't apply to heat pumps, because of the way that they are designed to work most efficiently is to keep a steady state, and so turning them up and down actually makes them work less efficiently. Um, I know somebody had a question beforehand about that, about uh, how to toggle a heat pump between day and night, or between cold rooms and warm rooms. And it's, I think, more an art than a science. I'm happy to talk more offline about that. Next question.
Okay. I have radiant floor heat, and I'm unsure when to set my lower temp hours and how long I need to get back up to temp in the morning.
Well, congratulations on your radiant floor heating. That's a marvelous design. I would suggest uh, um, bringing the heat up just an hour before you want to step on that radiant floor. And you could potentially turn it down an hour before you have to leave that space, uh, because of the way the radiant floor itself holds that heat. But again, it's an experimental thing. You have to see what works. Next question.
The next one is, do you think it's better to go to a heat pump versus converting to gas?
Yes, I do think it's better to convert to a heat pump, but I will grant that gas would likely be a much smaller investment up front. Um, the gas systems have been sold for many years. There are decades worth of innovation that have gone into making them efficient, and the price of gas is artificially held low because nobody's been regulating the fracking industry, and um, the methane that's leaking out of all the pipes underneath our streets are, nobody's paying for that. So those are the reasons why gas would be cheaper. But remember that the regulations on gas are only going to get tighter from here, and the uh, the costs that have been foisted onto the public in terms of public health and environmental destruction are going to be pushed back onto the gas industry in the years, even possibly in the coming year, because of the change in administration from Republican to Democrat. So when you're costing out, when you're trying to do a comparison between those costs, definitely calculate that the price of gas is going to rise significantly in the coming years. And a heat pump, as I said, is great because it provides cooling as well as heat. Just a single system provides both things. You can get heat pumps that are situated on the near the floor on your walls, or up high, or even in your ceilings. They can be attached to your ductwork if you have a furnace now. So they're highly variable, and they can be run completely on renewable electricity, either through our program or through solar panels on your roof, or through a mini municipal aggregation program. But I understand some people will choose to switch to gas, and that's certainly understandable if that's your choice. You can also get very high, relatively high efficient oil equipment, and oil is way cleaner than it used to be. So if you're thinking about gas, you might consider thinking about sticking with oil. If you want to have a smaller carbon footprint. The carbon footprint of gas is so much larger than what is actually combusted in your home when you calculate all the methane that's leaking out of the pipes from wellhead to your home, and that raises the carbon footprint of gas to be equal, really, to oil.
Okay.
Yep.
The next question is, can I lay fiberglass bat insulation over my 1957 vermiculite insulated attic?
Ooh, the problem with the vermiculite is that it is potentially contaminated with asbestos. So in order to lay fiberglass bats over that, you would be taking a risk of contaminating yourself and your family, because even microscopic bits of vermiculite dust could be brought into your home and then breathed into your lungs, or your pet's lungs, or your family's lungs. So the program, I'm assuming if you're in Massachusetts, there are significant rebates for removing that vermiculite from your attic. There are certified companies, very highly qualified people, who will come in and just suck that right out of there, and capture it, and they will do testing afterwards. It's mandated, all the testing afterwards, to make sure that there's no dust left, no contagion left. So I would encourage you, please follow up with me if you'd like. to find out more about what those incentives are for removing the vermiculite. The other nice thing about removing the vermiculite is that air sealing in the attic is difficult to do once you already have blown-in insulation. It's not impossible. It's impossible if you have vermiculite because nobody wants to be digging around in there. But with, say, old blown-in cellulose, you can do air sealing, but it is pretty difficult. But once you have the vermiculite sucked out of there, then all the cracks are exposed, and the technicians can do a really nice job of air sealing your attic, and then putting in a really nice layer of cellulose on top of that, and then you've got a very wool hat on top of your head, keeping you warm, keeping your head warm with that well insulated and well air sealed attic. So please do follow up with me if you'd like more information about the vermiculite removal. Of course, some vermiculite is not contaminated, but I'm not sure that there's an easy way to test and rule out.
Next, since I have a 6 kilowatt solar installation, I'm interested in switching from an oil-fired boiler to a heat pump. What should I be looking for in a heat pump to control my radiant floor heat?
The radiant floor heat is a hydronic system, I'm assuming, from what your question is. That means that there's actually hot water flowing through the flooring. There are hydronic heat pumps, but they are not easy to find. It's fairly rare to find technicians who, companies that install and maintain hydronic heat pumps. They're more common in Europe and Asia, and should be coming here and will be coming here, but they're still pretty rare. So you might, pardon me, need to do some research on that. Otherwise, the heat pumps that you would use would be producing hot air, and that would be from either a central duct system or from mini splits. And I'm happy to follow up offline too.
Next question is, what temperature do you recommend when you're away from home for a week to avoid pipes freezing and save money?
I would turn it down all the way down to 50. Open all the cabinets, and make sure that the pipes in the basement are well insulated if they are, coming up against the outside of the house at all. But that's really just a ballpark because each house is different. And if you have a home where the pipes are going through a section of the wall that you can't open any cabinets to get the 50-degree air in your home into the wall, then you may be at risk there. So you'll have to evaluate what are the specific pipe areas that are most at risk in your home, and make sure that you keep those at above 32. You can always leave a faucet dripping, but if you're going for a whole week, that seems kind of a waste. Yeah.
And last one, when do you think the price of heat pumps will go down? The estimate that Natalie got last was very high.
That's a good question. Some of the problems with the pricing of heat pumps is, well, there are multiple contributors to the high price of heat pumps. One is there aren't that many technicians who have a great deal of experience. So there's still, there's a lot of training time and a lot of learning curve that has to be absorbed in the company's capital cost. And then the technology itself, because the cold weather heat pumps have really only been popular in the last 10 years. There hasn't been, we're still kind of in the first generation, if you will, of efficiencies. They are very efficient, but they will get more efficient. And there's an inherent difficulty in the industry in that each home is so different from another that it's difficult to design the systems. I guess maybe that's part of the learning curve as well. But I think it's, I mean, they are affordable now in some cases, so it really depends on the layout of the house, the fuel that's being compared, and to some degree the air conditioning needs, as to whether or not they will be affordable. 10 years ago, when I had the opportunity to redesign our kitchen, again, I said I had electric heat, and we're a second-story condo with no air conditioning, and it was unbearably hot in the summer. So I ran the numbers and figured that it would pay for itself in 10 years. And I said, yes, I'm going to be there in 10 years, so I'm going to get this so that we have more efficient heat, but also so that we'll have air conditioning. So that's part of the equation, is how much are you paying for air conditioning now, or how much do you want air conditioning, and you're willing to invest in something that will get that for you in an economical way. If you're elderly and having to carry, window air conditioners up and down 3 sets of stairs, then there's a value in getting heat pumps for that reason, in addition to the obvious heating value that is more important. So yeah, it's hard to predict. The Mass Clean Energy Center, the acronym is Mass CEC, is a great resource for information on heat pumps, and I encourage you to look at their stuff to keep in touch with developments on heat pumps. Rhode Island is also looking at increasing incentives for heat pumps. They didn't in the last year, but because of climate change, the incentives for what's called clean heating, heating that can be powered by electricity, by renewable electricity, the incentives are only going to grow, because as a world, we need to use less and less fossil fuels. And that means that our oil systems and our gas systems have to be replaced by heat pumps or some other even newer technology. So there will be policy pressures that will drive down the cost of heat pumps. And you said that's the last question, Kate?
That's the last one I see. I think we're all set, unless anybody else has any more.
You can always email me, or you can call me. I'd love to chat about energy efficiency and heat pumps and water heaters and all those things, and solar, everything. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Kate, for your work.
My pleasure. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.